Alright, welcome back. This is a review for Fruits Basket Season 2, Episode 6/31. So this episode we finally get to the start of the beach arc. Um, and it's so good. I'm so happy we're finally here. Um, Now, what's interesting about this episode is the fact that it's actually 3 chapters put together, which is actually kind of the first time this has actually happened. The closest to that what we had before was with the Uos chapter, but like even then that was only 1.5 chapters. But so it's kind of strange. But no, but it's 3 chapters put together. There are definitely some little tidbits missing here and there, but they're not really. I would say they're not really too important. They're just kind of little, mainly little comedic moments um, that were taken out, obviously, but it's fine. It works. And then of course there were definitely some things that were rearranged as well. Uh, so the episode itself is you start out with Momiji. It's storming, and Momiji comes over, and he basically says, "Hey, we're gonna go to the beach house." And Toru has to finish her homework, which Yuki helps her with. And while he's in there, he notices the hat, and he kind of talks with her a little bit about it. Just kind of questioning her as to why she kind of kept it, which she says it's a precious memories of her, so that's why she kept it. And then the next morning they leave, and then Rin shows up, and you get that kind of interesting moment with Rin and Shigure, and it's like, I want, Now I know what's going on, but even in the manga, it's supposed to kind of look like something's gonna go down between the two, but I can't say any more than that. At least for now, until you get more information. Anyway, so then we jump over and we're at the beach, and you get this little fun time of them hanging out at the beach, having fun, kind of going swimming, just doing stuff. And that'd be Toru, Yuki, Haru, Momiji, and then Hiro and Kisa are also there. Which I'll get. There's a lot of little things that are changed or moved around, so I'll get into that once I finish kind of the recap. And then they're going home, and then as they're walking home, Toru drops her notebook, which Hiro picks up, and he gives it back to her, and he's like, "Hey, why do you only have a picture of your mom and not your dad? All you ever talk about is your mom." And Toru kind of is shocked by this, and you kind of started to see the little bits of the happiness, the happy Toru kind of start chipping away there, because you realize she's not the happy, optimistic character that she tends to be, or that she's not as one dimensional as some might think she is. She's definitely a lot more of a deeper character. Um, you have a little fight between Hiro and Kisa, to which then they both eventually apologize to each other. You get the scene, the most probably the important scene here, with Toru sitting there by herself and remembering kind of what Hiro said about, and why is it that you only have a photo of your dad, if you're a photo of your mom, not your dad. And you kind of get this scene where she kind of has a flashback, and you definitely see her breaking in a sense a little bit, because she kind of has a little flashback, but you can't really glean too much information off of that. And then she she keeps going. She keeps saying it's okay. She's saying to herself, "It's okay. It's okay." And, it's not. We're always together, and you can definitely tell this is the beginning of really where Toru's arc really kind of starts, to where her actual kind of development and getting to know, really starting to know her and what her issues are starting to kind of come to light. That was a lot of sound right there that I made. um, but yeah, her issues are starting to come to light. Starting with what Hiro says, which is, if I remember to bring it up, I'm gonna try to bring that up again. When I'm kind of go back. Actually, I could just talk about it now. Which is that one of the aspects that I really like about Hiro as a character is that he's probably out of all the Somas that we run across, and so that we've come across so far that has interaction with Toru, he's kind of really the first one that, even though he's definitely not the villain of the series, he's definitely not a bad character, he's definitely young and he's kind of blunt, and that's just how young kids are like that, especially as they're growing up, when they get around the age that he is. And because of that, because of the fact that he's very perceptive as a character, even though he's young, and he doesn't quite always understand things, he can in a lot of ways say more of what a villain would say to the hero, even if it's unintentionally. In this case, he's asking her some deep questions, saying, why is it that you only ever talk about your mom, or only have a photo of your mom on you and not one of your dad? It makes it it's so good. It makes it so much fun, and it makes his character a lot more unique. And because of the fact, just because of the fact that even though he's not obviously a bad character, he's not like played up as like a villain kind of character or an antagonist type character. Because of him just being kind of this very perceptive but kind of still young and not knowing how to be tactful about how he goes about saying things, he can say things which can act as a way to motivate, or a way to be able to dig deeper into the main character. And so that's one of the aspects I really like about Hiro, especially now that we got in this scene, where it definitely kind of starts to emphasize that a little bit more. Anyway, so after that, you get another scene where it goes the next morning, and they're bug hunting, and again, this is Hiro's perceptive. He realizes that, Toru's acting happier than normal, although he himself doesn't really think much of it. He's just like, okay, she's just acting happier than normal. And then Kyo comes up and he's like, hey, did you say something to her? And he's like, well, why are you accusing me? Why would you think I said something to her? And Kyo's like, well, she's acting down today. She seems a bit down today. And it's not only that's not only a very telling sign of Kyo, in that he observes Toru, and that he can tell when she's kind of faking being happy. And you get the same thing with Hiro, where Hiro can see that too, where he notices, oh, she's acting happier than normal, but he doesn't know why, and he doesn't kind of, because he's still young, so he doesn't really kind of pinpoint the connections, going, oh, she's faking it. And that's because he doesn't obviously know Toru as well as like Kyo does. But you have that little scene, and then you get the scene with Sugar Ray and Akito, and pretty much, Sugar Ray being his Sugar Ray self. That's Sugar Ray, and he basically inviting Akito, because he's talking about the summer house and everyone's there and having fun. And Akito's like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna go teach them all a lesson, and they're not gonna go have fun. So, and Sugar Ray's like, oh, well, why don't you just come over to the summer house then? And Akito's like, sure, I'm gonna do that. And it's like, oh, why, Sugar Ray? Why did you have to do this? But that is part of the beach arc, and it's gonna be good when we get there. We also get that little small snippet scene where you see Hattori walking by with someone. And you'll find out who that is in a little bit, but it's gonna be fun when you do. Other than that, and then at the end of the episode, we get Yuki kind of caught a little fever just because he overexerted himself from all the bug hunting and such. And so him and Toru are talking, and he kind of talks about how he needs to one day open up the lid and tell her something, and that he would be really happy if, when he does get the courage to actually tell her, if she would listen. And she's like, okay, sure. And then, of course, he talks about the lid, and Toru's like opening up the lid, and you kind of get her own little thing of, oh yeah, she has her own little lid you could say her own little box of secrets that she needs to open up as well and deal with, instead of just pushing them and hiding behind them and pretending they don't exist. Um, but it's a good episode overall, and it's fun. It's really enjoyable. I do enjoy the way that they combine these 3 chapters. Now, mind you, so it's a little. I'll try to keep it brief. I'll try to. I don't know how well this is gonna work though. So in the manga, again, there's just 3 different chapters. It's so you start at the beginning where they're doing their home, where Momiji comes over, um, and Yuki and Toru are having their conversation about the hat, and actually instead of Momiji coming in and interrupting Yuki and Toru's conversation, it's actually like something breaks because of all the, I guess, the wind and the rain. Like something like a twig, or I don't know, a twig, but something winds up breaking Toru's window, and it kind of flies between Yuki and Toru, and that's what actually stops their conversation. And then everyone besides Shigure rushes up and about and is trying to help clean up and do all this stuff. You get this really interesting scene where, Toru's holding on to the hat, and Kyo sees that she's holding on to the hat as well, and he's like, huh. And then instead of it being Rin shows up the next morning, it's while everyone else is upstairs, Rin shows up, and that's when she shows up and she talks to Shigure. And then it's said that they didn't actually leave that night. They didn't actually leave the next morning for the beach house. They actually left that night at some point. Because Toru mentions in the very beginning of the next chapter that, they got there sometime at, like, really late at night / early in the morning, that there were maids there, and that they, girls stayed on one side, boys stayed on the other. There is this one. This is one of the comedic scenes that you missed out, that didn't get animated, unfortunately. But it was a funny little scene to where, after the window breaks, Momiji runs in, and he puts his hands up and he's like, "Stop, wind! I command you!" And Kyo walks in, and he's like, "What are you doing? No, to stop. That's not gonna work." It's a funny little scene. And then the other difference being that Momiji doesn't mention that he invited everyone else until they're actually already at the beach. When Toru's like, "Oh man, I wish everyone else could be here," because when they're at the beach, when you first see them at the beach, it's actually just Momiji, Haru, Yuki, Toru, and Kyo. Hiro and Kisa aren't there, and that's because I guess Momiji had mailed them a little rabbit stationery that had it on there. And you still get the same conversation that you see briefly Hiro and Kisa have, where Hiro's like, "I don't want to, this is stupid, I don't want to go," and then Kisa's like, "I kind of want to go," and Hiro's like, "Okay, we'll go then." Except for, again, instead of it being on a text message, Momiji has sent them a letter. But they changed it around so that instead of it being, they're at the beach, and then, skipping over to the next day when Hiro and Kisa show up, they went ahead and included Hiro and Kisa, and then had their conversation as they're going back to the beach house, as they're going back to the house from the beach. And then it worked fine, and then they added in the third, kind of the third chapter being the more of the stuff with the Akito and such there at the end. It's it works. It's a good episode. It's interesting how they kind of move things around. I don't mind. There were definitely some things that were cut out here and there, but if they were gonna cut out some things, it kind of makes sense, because it wasn't like even too much that they even really cut out. It was just kind of, they added it. It was just more of, they kind of move things around a little bit, just to kind of make it flow, I feel like, a little better, so it wasn't like it was constantly, I guess, stalling. Or not even stalling, because in the manga it doesn't even feel like that, but just, I guess, just to make it flow better. But I feel like it works well. But other than that, I think that's really about it. Again, it's 3 chapters that they combined into one episode, but they did really well with combining it, so I'm happy with it. Anyway, so thanks for watching, and bye for now.